Welcome to the MSL 411, a podcast designed to equip both aspiring and experienced MSLs with the resources they need to level up their career toolkit. The heart of this podcast is to take the same industry knowledge and advice that we share with our own candidates and make it available and accessible to anyone looking for answers. So if you have questions, you've come to the right place. We're here to give you the 411. And without further ado, let's dive right in. Hey everyone, welcome back to the MSL 411 podcast. We are really excited today. We have a guest with us. So if you're watching, you can see her lovely face. If you're listening, we are going to be talking to Dr. Jill White today. She is a PharmD, CIC, CPT, and she is someone who has just a wealth of experience in a lot of different areas. First, she leverages 2 decades of experience in Fortune 500 pharmaceutical companies, and with that, blending her expertise with a passion for image and color science. And this is what she uses to help professionals elevate their presence and increase their credibility and authority and excel in the corporate arena. So she has spent nearly a decade in medical affairs, most of her time as an MSL. So she knows that world inside and out. But now as a certified image consultant, a color analyst, a personal trainer, a holistic skin specialist, I mean, need I say more? Jill takes a very holistic approach to refining appearance, professional presentation, and executive presence. So we're very excited to have her on today. She works with individuals, partners with recruiters and executive coaches, and delivers very impactful training to teams of all sizes with her company, imageinterrupted.com. So be sure and check that out. But we are going to be talking about putting your best face forward and executive presence and how you can improve on that and just be more mindful of it as you are going into interview situations or even in the role itself. And so, Jill, welcome to the podcast. We are so excited to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here, Linda. Thank you so much. And Ashley.
Yes, we're happy to have you. Just right out the gate, what are a couple of small things you would encourage someone to give attention to if they want to improve their executive presence?
Yeah, let's just jump right in. I love it. So 2 things that I really start with my clients when I'm working with them. The first would be nonverbal communication. That's a big one. The body language, having confidence. Eye contact is very important. And even something as simple as remembering to smile, because I think a lot of times we get stuck in our own heads and we might be walking around thinking and maybe we're just not exuding that interest into whoever it is, whatever room we're walking into. And that can make a big difference too. So that nonverbal communication, owning your space. And then secondly, I find just being intentional with style. That's something that's easy, that people can start to do. They look at clothes as fashion, or they look at clothes as just something they have to put on to be able to leave the house. But when you're trying to build your presence, you want to look at your style and your clothes as a strategic tool, like a tool you can implement to build your presence.
I have to admit, I took a little bit of extra time getting dressed this morning because I knew you're the expert in this area. So I wanted to choose my colors and choose my style a little bit carefully. But yes, I love all that. What are some of the areas that you think are the most often neglected when it comes to building personal brand or executive presence?
Yeah, a couple of the areas I would say in particular is just really alignment, consistency. I see incredibly talented professionals, really experts in their field, but their appearance or their communication style, the way they carry themselves, doesn't reflect that same authority that they want to convey. And so just aligning that expertise with the external presence. And then secondly, I see a lot of people overlook the power of color, and I know we're going to talk about it more today, but color psychology in both the professional or personal branding and executive presence is definitely something most people overlook.
Very interesting. And well, we might as well just go there now and talk about kind of the science of color. I've heard you on some webinars that you've done before, and you like to talk about the science of color and its role in the impression that you leave. So since most of the people that are listening to this are scientists, I think they are going to be very excited to kind of make some of those connections. So I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
Yes, absolutely. I try not to geek out too much on color because I really can. It's very fun, and when you hear the science of it, I think that it clicks and you can never forget it, and you realize how important it is. So let's take everyone back to, we'll start with like physics and chemistry. Okay, so think about that visible spectrum. We have from blue to red, and we have blue being your short wavelengths, because color are wavelengths. That's how we see it on the visible spectrum. We have the blue being the short wavelength, and we have all the way to the red being a long wavelength. Well, when our eyes send the signal to our brain, the brain sees those short wavelengths of the blue, which are processed slowly by the brain. So I always think short, slow, right? So blue is short, is processed slowly. And the interesting thing is, in our brains, we're processing these in the visual cortex. The visual cortex is very near our emotional processing center, particularly the amygdala. So now we're in anatomy and physiology thinking about it. So the amygdala is going to assign the colors as they're being processed a perception or a feeling, because it is that emotional processing center. So blue being processed slowly comes across as dependent, trustworthy, calm, right? Like all of those feelings and perceptions we're going to get from blue because it takes so long for it to be processed as compared to red. So if we go down to the other side, through the violet, through the green, through the yellow, through the orange, to the red, which is long and processed actually very quickly. Loving my red today. And so it gets the sense of urgency, or that's red stop signs, why alarms are red. Even our emojis on our phone, when it's the alarm, it's the red light, like ambulance light. Also, red can be confidence or power or passion, right? Like all of these different things by being processed so quickly. So I think that when you consider that, it just makes sense that color and it's all subconscious, right? We don't do this on purpose. We don't think about it on purpose. So utilizing that as a tool, as strategy, just to me makes sense. That's why PayPal, Chase, right? Like all of these banking, they want to be trustworthy with your money. And so they're blue. They use it. They know it in marketing. And so definitely as professionals, we should harness it as well.
As you were saying that, I was thinking about the cardinal wedding rule. Of course, you don't wear white to a wedding, but you also don't wear red because it takes attention from the bride. So,
Exactly.
kind of pivoting back to the more MSL arena, can you explain how MSLs can use color and style as tools to enhance their credibility and their influence, whether it's a KOL interaction or maybe it's just a high stakes presentation internally within their own organization?
Right, absolutely. Or an interview if someone is aspiring to become an MSL as well. Sure. So, what colors I recommend for, well, we'll start with style and then come back to color. Style, you want to care about your fit, right? And I know sometimes if you are maybe aspiring to become an MSL, funds might not be long. And so you have to be specific about what you spend your money on. One well-fitted blazer and suit is very important because the fit is going to convey your professionalism. You want it to fit well. You want it to not be wrinkled. All of those things, the small details are important in your presentation. But coming back to color, we want to think about deep blues, navy, charcoals. Those are all going to build credibility, authority, and professionalism. So it is great for any of those formal presentations like you were mentioning, high stakes conversations, including interviews. Now, you can also think about it, say you're working with a team. So you're on a team and it's time to network in person and collaborate. Instead of wearing those darker colors, we're going to think more earth tones and muted shades because that is going to increase your approachability. Maybe you're at a networking event and you want to be approachable. So the high contrast, white shirt and navy blazer is not the best thing to wear to a networking event because it's going to make you a little bit more standoffish than if you wear something with a lower contrast. And, if you want to wear the navy blazer, hopefully it's more of a light to medium navy, then you can go with maybe a light blue shirt underneath, or a pastel, especially like a woman could wear a nice pastel shirt. So you can play with contrast as well as color when you're thinking about the different places that you're wearing it. And then lastly, bold colors like red. I wouldn't recommend everyone wearing a red blazer all the time, but when you work in more of a creative field, you can get away with a little bit more creative colors. You can use it more as an accent in the MSL world, as a shirt or a tie, things like that, or a purse is a great place for a woman to carry something red.
Okay, very fun.
It's so fascinating taking something that the mind processes so intuitively without us even thinking about it, but putting that thought and applying that science and how to use it to your benefit. I just think
Exactly.
I get why you geek out about this because Ashley and I have actually been talking about all this before we even connected with you about being a guest on our podcast. We were talking about the colors and how people who've had their colors done, it's so obvious. We had a guest on our podcast a little while back, and I mean, we both were talking to her before we started the recording, and we're like, that color is fantastic on you. Like, you always look so put together, so polished, so professional. And she was like, well, I know my colors. I've had my colors done, and how that we could see how that just projected her executive presence and made her look polished and professional and put together, and just made her, her skin stand out and all of that, but also just conveyed that subconscious message that she is someone in charge who knows what they're talking about. So it's so fascinating. And I know on LinkedIn recently you led a webinar that Ashley and I both were able to attend, and it was fantastic, first of all. But you were talking about executive presence and its impact on your career trajectory. And I want you to just kind of dive into a little bit of that and explain why this is especially important within the MSL career, and just kind of give a little bit more information on how this can impact career trajectory.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to answer this question. I would love to come back to the color analysis in a minute as well. So one of the biggest challenges that MSLs face is that they want to establish authority without actually having any formal power. Right? That's a challenge. And so that's one reason why executive presence is absolutely essential for MSLs to understand and to grow, to work on. It shows their authority, their credibility, but also their potential. So I would say whether you're presenting the clinical data, building relationships with KOLs, or even working in cross-functional teams internally, how you carry yourself, how you communicate, they really are, and you alluded to it earlier, they're just as important as what you wear, the appearance, because when you have that misalignment between, wow, this person is telling me, it sounds very credible, sounds incredible data, but maybe they're wrinkled, their clothes are wrinkled, or it's a t-shirt, or whatever it is, our brains just can't get those two messages to coincide with each other, and it gets confused. As amazing as our brains are, it's trying to assign what value is on this person. Is this an authority, credible, trustworthy, or is it not? Who is this person talking to me? And so we really want to align those so we can give the perception to others that we want them to have about us. I always say, whether you care about your professional brand or your personal brand or not, whether you proactively put time into it or not, others are creating an opinion about you. And so you might as well control what that opinion is.
That's so true.
Absolutely. And, I just think about all those times that those little distractions kind of creep in and they take over. And I feel like I'm more prone to dwell on these things maybe than somebody else's, but it is distracting. And even with my husband or whatever, if his collar's like not tucked in properly or whatnot, I just can't, until he fixes it, I just can't focus on
Like you kind of stare at it, right?
yeah. So, those little things, they just have the ability to distract. And when you are presenting or whatever it is, you don't want those little easy fixes to be something that's keeping people from focusing on you and your message and all of that.
Exactly. And one thing I did want to just circle back to on the color analysis, Linda, you were talking about how powerful it is and that you and Ashley had been discussing it before. And it really is, because it's not just about wearing navy. It's not just about wearing charcoal, but it's about wearing the right navy that goes with your skin tone, because we all have different undertones. If you wear the wrong Navy in particular, I will be honest, navy is a big one. If you wear a warm navy and you're a cool undertone, it can actually cast a yellow shadow on you, a yellow reflection, and make you look ill or sick, like you're kind of nauseous looking. So it is really important to know what colors you are if you're cool or warm. I actually use a patented system that breaks it down to 16 different seasons and helps people find which colors out of those 16 are the best for them. And so we even incorporate personality. So talk about being authentic to yourself. The color system that I use, we take your personality in addition, because I believe that when your insides and matches your outsides, you have true just passion and authenticity, and your expertise is going to match what you say with how you look. And so I love that, but it is really important. I love to recommend people to get their colors done. Of course, I would love to do your colors. But if not, knowing what your undertone is at a minimum, so you're matching that warmer, cool vibe. Otherwise, you really can look dull and sick. And you wonder sometimes if people are like, are you feeling okay today? And you're like, yeah, I feel fine. Maybe it's that you have the wrong color because the light's reflecting and it reflects onto your face. So what you wear up here is really important. Sorry, I
Yes.
digress a little bit on that one.
No.
I love it. I love watching those videos of people getting their colors done and like seeing it. It's just one of those things that you don't see it until you see it.
100%, 100%. I actually had the opportunity to do a little pop-up here in Georgia where I'm at currently over the weekend. And I got to do 5 women's colors at a hair salon pop-up event. And it's just so amazing. They had so much fun, and you see the colors. You can literally watch people's face light up as you flip, especially like from gold to silver. Like that's a big one. And then again, like I said, the navies are a big one to me too. Yeah, if someone hasn't had it done, they definitely should check it out.
Yes.
That thing is fantastic. And I know that you are a traveler. We haven't really delved into that topic, but I'm sure if people look you up on LinkedIn or anywhere, they'll see that you are a traveler. Do you do those kind of pop-ups in other cities? And are you coming to Dallas anytime soon?
I love that you asked me that because I actually think I'm heading back to Abilene very soon. So we'll be crossing through and it's not too far. Yes, I do. I do them. Absolutely. That's kind of something else that I want to start doing more of is while I'm traveling. I was really doing a lot of online and virtual services, which I still will. And then also the in-person with pharma companies for their teams, virtual for their teams. But I was like, while I'm traveling, why not partner with hair company, hair salons or makeup studios and do pop-ups? So yes, definitely.
That is so cool. And what a neat way to partner with a company with their MSL teams, because I'm sure companies are starting to embrace stuff like that, but the ones that are already embracing it are ahead of the curve. They're sending their MSLs out to meet with these KOLs and just subconsciously conveying that they have the best product. They are the strongest people. They know what they're talking about. These are deep, knowledgeable scientists that they're sending out. And they're doing all that not just through their scientific knowledge, which of course they have, but conveying that message through color and style as well. Just that subconscious, first impression through the door. So
Credibility. Yeah,
such
exactly.
a neat way to partner with companies on that. I love hearing that you're doing that. I think more companies should embrace that, and they probably will. So.
Yeah, I definitely see it as a trend going forward because when you have something as high stakes as pharma, right? Like any leg they can get up on the competition, especially with some of the news that's coming out these days about things that are going to have to change, they're going to take advantage of it. They're going to be on the forefront for sure.
Well, Jill, one more question. I could spend all day asking questions. One more question to kind of close this out for this episode. How do you think that this is even more important given the highly virtual nature that MSLs are in now, where we're all kind of fighting to have the best presentation? Because when you lose that kind of in-person connection, you lose so much of the credibility that just comes from that in-person relationship. How do you think the virtual element of the MSL role really plays a role here in what you're doing?
Yeah, that's such an important question, right? Since 2020 for sure. And I would say that your executive presence is probably more important virtually because you don't have those physical cues to work with. And so do you want me to give you a few tips like that can, okay. So Yes. Okay, perfect. So the first one would be lighting, right? That's a huge one. You want to make sure and have good lighting. You want to be bright. You want to have your camera. This is a big one. And I feel like it seems people are sitting at home and they're like, I don't want to put my laptop on a box, or I don't want to put my laptop on books. But it makes a huge difference. You have to have, if you don't want to do that, then get a separate camera, right? Like that's the other option. You have to have your camera at eye level or even slightly above eye level. You can't be looking up too high. You definitely can't be looking down at your camera. That's going to present some just authority issues in general. So you want that camera eye level or slightly above. And it's important to look into your camera, right, to signify that eye contact that you're not able to get when you're not in person. You want to be framed well. And so you want to have also a very non-distracting background. You can have a neat one with maybe, like I've seen people like with a plant or a book, they have a whole setup behind them, but you still have to be careful. You don't want it to be distracting. You don't want people to be trying to figure out what books those are behind you while you're talking. You want them to be looking at you and listening to what you're saying. And then lastly, colors are also really important online. You don't want to blend into your background, right? So actually, I'm just going to say right now today, right, you're blending into your background just a little bit. So we want to be careful and we want to be the focus. We don't want to be camouflaged. And so thinking about that contrast. So like maybe if you have a lighter shirt or a lighter background with that shirt in particular, so that way you're standing out on camera and you're the main focus instead of trying to find you in the screen. So yeah, I hope that helped.
Just new artwork. No,
You're right. It's exactly what it's time to switch it out. Good excuse to go shopping.
Yes, yes. Well, I've loved our conversation. I think there's probably people that are listening to are curious where they can learn more. So where can someone go if they want to learn more about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a great website, imageinterrupted.com. Also, I'm on LinkedIn most days. So just find me, Jill White PharmD on LinkedIn. I have also a newsletter on LinkedIn called The Polished Professional.
Well, I love this, Jill. This has been great. Thank you so much for all the little nuggets of wisdom that you have passed along to our audience. I know Linda and I have done a couple of episodes recently really talking about these concepts because everybody's craving like how to stand out in this virtual environment, especially we were reminiscing on the days when MSL interviews were in person. I'm sure you did a few of those in your day. It's just different now. So we're all kind of craving that knowledge for how to really pack a punch and make an impact and put your best face forward.
Well, thank you for having me so much. It was great. I thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you ladies, and I could definitely do it longer as well.
Oh, same here. And we appreciate you being a part of our podcast. And of course, if you guys, watchers, listeners, if you have any questions, there is a link in the show notes below where you can reach out to us, ask your questions. And of course, be sure to reach out to Jill on LinkedIn or check out her website, imageinterrupted.com. We'll put that link in the show notes as well. But I'm sure she would be happy to talk more about all of these concepts that she shared today. It's been fantastic. And again, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to join us. We have loved this conversation and we could talk forever on this. But thank you all, listeners, watchers, for joining us. And I hope you found this as insightful and interesting as we have. And we will see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to share the link, let your friends know, and of course, connect with us on LinkedIn. And if you want more information on today's topic, please feel free to reach out. Be sure to check back soon as we continue to explore the topics that matter most to you in medical affairs.